Speak on the show, 2022, episode 2. I'm your boy, R.W. Coolins. Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Y'all ready? Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. As I said, I'm your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to the God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there this morning? Got some good mornings already this morning. OT, good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the support. Blue light, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Trying to get some feng shui in here, some feng shui, some zen in the studios. I appreciate that observation, my brother. Trent Branch, good morning, my brother. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And Brian Hoodie, good morning, my brother. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing out there? John Chaney, good morning, King. Appreciate you. What's up, hometown? Hope everything's good back there in Frederick, Maryland. All right, watch out for that snow coming. I heard so y'all gonna get some snow. So be careful out there. Be careful out there. It's Saturday morning, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. I got some good information for you. Today is Unscripted. It's an unscripted Saturday on the Speak On the Show, but let's get these formalities out the way. R.W. Coolins. That's all you need to know. R.W. Coolins on any social media platforms, rwcoolins.com. That's the website. You can go there, follow me. YouTube, Facebook, we're broadcasting live this morning. Also, you can download the audio on Spreaker.com after the fact, in addition to Apple iTunes after the show is over. So you can go to all those places, download, look, review. All the old videos are there. All the old audio is there. Do what you do. Press that like button, share. Do what you do with the other shows that you watch. I'm not begging you. I'm just telling you what I've observed. I observe you sharing other people's stuff. Share mine as well. Terrence Collins, what's up, my brother? I appreciate you. Love you too. So go out there, tune in, pay attention, listen to what we got going on, and we're going to take it from there. 844-904-2665, 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask, if you call in, say what you mean what you say, and then we'll take it from there. We come in as friends, we leave as friends. Nothing changes from the time we start the show to the time we end the show, and even after the show. What we do is we have conversations, we give facts, as OT just mentioned. We give facts. Some of us opinion, my opinion, from my experiences. Let's be real. From experiences come our opinions. And I give that in these processes of what we do on this show, not to beat nobody down, but put the information out there. So that's where we're at today. That's where we're at. I'm back, y'all. Last week was a little shaky. It had that 2 weeks off. And I'm back. I'm ready to roll. We're going to get into this conversation and see who we got there. April Weed, good morning. Appreciate it. What's up, sis? What's up? And Trent Branch, facts. My brother. Long time no hear, my brother. Appreciate you tuning in, though, as usual. So I'm going to start this off today in this unscripted Saturday. And unscripted, normally I go a little bit off the rails, as they would say, a little bit off the rails. But I got something I want to bring up today, and it deals with the politics that we're in right now. And the first thing I want to start with is something I've seen this week about the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, we hear, certain people always throw out the amendments when they're trying to justify what they're doing politically or otherwise, or what they feel they have the right to do in this country and different things like that. The forefathers' intent, all those different things that we hear consistently. But I wanted to bring this to your attention with everything we got going on with January 6th, who they said let's just not say January 6th, with the insurrection. With the insurrection on the Capitol, what they said that these people did, who didn't do this, who, what, when, where, why, all the different excuses that are coming into play. But the 14th Amendment, Section 3 is where I want to concentrate in before I get into these people that have been identified this week with some charges that they said the Department of Justice hasn't been doing their job. So I'm going to get into this here. 14th Amendment, Section 3 is long, but I'm going to read this because I think we all need to be educated on certain things that are going on around us where we don't feel the process is working the way it's supposed to be working, and the loopholes. This is what I'm saying. And the loopholes that are constantly found by certain people to be able to get away with what they want to get away with. So here we go. 14th Amendment, Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but let me break this down in the simplest terms I can. What this Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is saying is that if you hold a position of Congress, senator, our Democrat, let's just say our democracy, if you hold a political office per se, and you took this oath to uphold, defend the Constitution, any of that kind of thing that we read all the time and we hear them say it and everything like that. And in that time period, you decide to be a part of an insurrection or provide comfort or participate with those who do an insurrection on this government, you cannot and will not be able to run or be able to hold office. Simple, clear cut. However, the last line is where the loophole comes in. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability, which means even if you did part of the insurrection, even if you did comfort those or help those out who were doing an insurrection, Congress, by 2/3 of a vote, can overturn the fact that you helped an insurrection and still allow you to run or hold or continue to hold office in the Congress. Now, I'm not the brightest light bulb in the socket, as I always tell y'all, but come on now. See, this is why I say to us, we have to read. We have to get to understand and know what these laws are, what these loopholes are, and why some of these people do what they do. Because, as you always hear them say, some of these people are congressional scholars. They're scholars of the Constitution or the amendment or amendments or any of those type things. So when I read this, it kind of jumped out at me where now I understand, and it should give you an understanding of why the Department of Justice is being so methodical. Let me say methodical in how they're going about charging people with this insurrection. Now, mind you, the low-hanging fruit, the ones that went in the building and was standing up in the dais and all that kind of stuff, that's low-hanging fruit. Let's just be real about it. Those people that have been charged up to this point were and are low-hanging fruit in the process of what this insurrection was all about. Let's just be honest. However, this week, they charged the leader of the Oath Keepers with the seditious act. Now, when I read this about the Oath Keepers, I wasn't shocked. But being a military member, the things that they had in place and planned to do, I'm not going to say put me in fear, but made me a little worried. Because if you remember when all this happened, I told you this was a trial run. This was a trial run. And now that more information is coming out, you're starting to see the writing on the wall of what they intended to do and what their intentions were and the whole process of how they were planning this out. And I'm not going to go into detail with all this, what the Oath Keepers were charged with, but the leader of the Oath Keepers, his name is what's his name? Stuart Rhodes. He's the founder of the Oath Keepers. And it says the federal indictment alleges Stuart Rhodes, founder of the Oath Keepers, a far-right extremist group, conspired with 10 other members to oppose by force the lawful transfer of presidential power. The group, now this is where it jumped out at me, the group stationed armed members on the outskirts of Washington to serve as so-called quick reaction force teams. Rhodes has pleaded not guilty to seditious conspiracy charges. Now, as I mentioned, there's a lot of details in this. I'm not going to sit here and read them all. John Cheney, I'm still not sure why our forefathers were considered such geniuses. All these loopholes are only meant for certain people. And I'm glad you brought that up, bro. Because see, if you listen and you sit back and you read these amendments, read the Constitution and how it was written, people say the Constitution, our forefathers, and and all this, whatever they want to say. I understand the concept, but if you really read these things, there's always a loophole in there on how if they're charged with this can be done. Or if this is not done, we can use this to fall back on to cover this. It's always checks and balances as far as how they wanted to run the government. So when I see these in the 14th Amendment, yeah, John Cheney, you're correct. It's the loopholes. And they only did it for certain people because at the time, and I say this all the time, I want people to keep remembering, and I know it beat it in the ground, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all these things were not written for the people who were slaves. They were written for the slave owners. We're coming up on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Think about what he had to go through and what he dealt with all the time that he was marching and fighting about the injustices against what was written in the Constitution, because the mindset was, and it was written as, it didn't pertain to people like him and women. But y'all get caught up in that. But y'all keep on. Keep on. Yes, that stuck with me too. Yeah, Trent Brand. Let's get on back to that. Appreciate that, John Cheney. But let's get back to that. They actually had special ops tactics. Thank you, Trent Brand. Special ops tactics. They had hotels on the outskirts, right across the river of the Potomac, where they were storing weapons for a quick reaction force to come in once they took control of the Capitol or did what they wanted to do as far as what their insurrection plan was. This is not something to take lightly, because see, here's the thing. What I've read about the Oath Keepers, these are former military members, former police officers, former FBI agents, all former people who have tactical experience. They want people that have the training of what we would do in other countries to be able to do it here on this soil. They actually had, watch this now, they actually had a boat. They had a boat to transport weapons from somewhere in Lower Virginia on the Potomac, somewhere around in Virginia where they were going to have a dock, to be able to bring it up and drop those weapons that they were carrying on that boat off at the dock at the Pentagon to be able to get into DC. Now, if you're not paying attention to this, I would tell you, good morning, Maurice Wigfall, appreciate your support, bro. If you haven't been paying attention to this, I think you might want to start, because this is where it starts. This is the ground level work of what's going on. Now, the reason, yes, we were property. Thanks, Trent Brand. The reason I'm so intent on this and I'm following this and everything, and I'm trying to give you all this information, we can't be comfortable with what's going on around us. We can't be comfortable to say that that's just a few, as they used to say, hillbilly Joes out there trying to impose their will or do what they want to do, whatever. No. That's where we got to change up our mentality. That's where we got to start paying attention to what's going on. And as I mentioned, we have to start paying attention to these people who are running for the local government positions, the local legislature, because that's where a lot of these things start happening. They're trying to work from the inside out. We have to be cognizant of this. We have to pay attention to this. And these Oath Keepers, if everybody remembers, you see the pictures and everything, that they were, they stood strongly behind Ted Cruz at one time when he was giving a speech with the Oath Keeper sign, who was a senator. They stand behind Roger Stone, who's a staunch Trump supporter. They stood behind and they were on interviews on InfoWars with Alex Jones and OAN and all these different channels that have influenced the mindset of people to think that the insurrection was just a riot and that the election was stolen, and so on and so on and so on. And the thing about it is they're not getting smaller, they're getting larger. But I'll say again, for all you people who had a problem with the Black Lives Matter movement because of what happened to our young black men and young black women at the hands of police, and everybody's in uproar about this Black Lives Matter movement and Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. All you people that had a problem with that, you're silent now when you talk about these oath keepers and what happened on January 6th and so on and so forth, and what they're trying to do with your vote. Whether you voted Democrat, Republican, whether you voted Trump or Biden or whatever you voted, there's processes in place to minimize the impact of your vote by being able to overturn the will of the people. But the first thing people want to yell out is "We the people" about the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and everything else. But you get quiet and silent when it comes to things that happen like this. John Cheney, that's why we had to stop telling our kids to run from politics and encourage more of them to get involved. You can't win the game if you don't participate. I couldn't have said it better. We can't win if we don't participate. You can't be part of the solution if you don't go in there and try to correct the problem. Now, mind you, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be all that. But we can't give up. It's one of them things where you sit back. Let me just speak for me for a minute. I sit back and I watch these different interviews and I read these different articles about everything surrounding what's going on in the government right now. And as I say, I'm not fearful, but we should have pause about what's going on. We should look at these things and the way things are going and how certain people who have been elected to political office up there are megaphones for a former president who had no good intentions as far as the position he was holding. It was all about him and the people that support him. You hear these people sticking their neck out for him now. He's not even sitting in the seat. They'll stick their neck out for him. But the people that need the help when we talk about the Voting Rights Act that they won't pass, when we talk about the Build Better Back plan with the infrastructure and everything, when we talk about all the different legislation and the laws and executive orders and things that they're trying to put into place to help you and me and the everyday people, they're more concerned about protecting and taking care of a failed president. Let's be honest. When you're impeached twice, when you're up for impeachment twice, you're a failed president as far as I'm concerned. But when you got people that still are in the Senate and the Congress defending the actions of this person, and some of you are so laissez-faire because it's not affecting you, there's an issue. Because as I read in that 14th Amendment, and I'm going to read this last quote, this last statement one more time. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability, which means if the Republicans are able to take over the House and the Senate in this next election in 2022, they have the authority, no matter what happens in the outcome of what happens with this investigation with Donald Trump and all his cronies, the Congress has the authorization to override whatever they do to them, to be able to allow them to continue and to serve in the Congress or the Senate if they're elected. They can overturn that. See, we don't pay attention to these things. We just look at it and say, he ain't gonna run again. Department of Justice gonna do this. These things were written for a purpose. These things were written for a reason, because they knew, as they talk about the forefathers, they knew they were just as sketchy as the people we're dealing with now, because they were slave owners. Let's not forget this. These people that wrote this were slave owners. Apple don't fall far from the tree. Now, when we get into the high level, as Trent Branch is saying, the high level, you have, let's go into here for a minute. James Battle, good morning. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Let's go into here for a minute. You have the January 6th committee that's doing an investigation right now, who are sending letters to people who they're asking to come sit and talk to them about what happened and what they know about January 6th. Now, these are congressmen, senators of the Republican Party. Let's just be honest about it. Who they have information that says that they helped out with what happened on January 6th, or they have knowledge of what went on and the response of the former president on that day. But in these letters that they're sending out, these people, Jim Jordan, Kevin McCarthy, so on and so forth, I don't know them all, but there's too many to list. Anybody that they've called that sits in that office, in those positions, has declined to speak to the January 6th committee. One of them started, and then he pulled back and said he wasn't going back no more. I think it was Mark Meadows. He's not Congressman, Senator, and whatever. But these are the things that our constituents, we as constituents have voted these people into this office to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, and they can't even come forward to sit for a deposition about what happened on January 6th and what they may know. For me, that says more about them and their character and their integrity than it is about what happened on January 6th. Because what I know to be true, and I think everybody can agree with this, normally, under normal circumstances, if you're involved with something, or if you're not involved with something, and they ask you about it, you have no problem talking about it. But if your hands are dirty, if your hands are dirty, that's where the hesitation comes in. And then you try to use all this legal gargle to try to confuse us about why the committee is not legit, and all these other excuses that they're putting on. And Nancy Pelosi put them up to this and put them up to that. January 6th happened, just like Benghazi happened. Benghazi had Hillary Clinton sit in front of Congress and testify for 11 hours about what happened in Benghazi when it was no fault of hers. The reason they did that was because they knew she had political aspirations to be president of the United States. The only reason. But you can't get these people to go testify behind closed doors about what they know under oath. See, that's the key, under oath. John Chaney, we should be alarmed. If not, you're not paying attention. Exactly. And as I said, you need to start paying attention to these people that are running for your local government positions and find out where their mindset is. Find out what their intentions are and dig deep and find out who they run with. You know, and I'm going to say this, but you remember back in the day when we were young, and people used to say you're guilty by association, you know, because of who you hung with and who you were around and who you dealt with or who you talked to. See, that only pertains to a certain demographic. That's only pertained to a certain look of certain people at certain times. See, they don't use that analogy for certain folk. Because if I'm a congressman and a senator and I'm hanging out with oath keepers, there should be some questions about who I am and what my intentions are. But I'll go back to something else I've said. The oath keepers were able to do this. The oath keepers are still able to be in existence for the same reason that the KKK is still in existence. It's not what they do, it's who's doing it. You're talking about, like I said, former military members, former police officers, former Department of Justice people, former people who hold positions or who held positions that decide that they want to go out here and play military. They want to go up here and put on their camo gear and their tactical gear, and they want to walk in unison like they're doing some tactical mission at the Capitol and wherever they're going to do and everything like that. And nobody has a problem with it. Nobody's paying attention to it. The only difference is they're putting on tactical gear now, they took off the sheets. I said it. They got on tactical gear now, they took off the sheets. Excuse me. taken off the sheets, not took, taken off the sheets. But while some of you want to sit back with the blinders on, like you don't see what's going on, you need to wake up. Because what's going on right now is not something that we should be comfortable with. The Voting Rights Act. Let's go there. With the Voting Rights Act, I'm going to ask this question. It's rhetorical, but if anybody wants to log in, you can. But one of my questions is about the Voting Rights Act. Why does the Voting Rights Act have to come up to be re-voted on every so often? Voting is a right of the people. We have to have voting in order to install people into positions. But we come up with these things about the Voting Rights Act every so often. Why? See, we always say voting is a right. Yeah, that's the verbiage. But there's nothing enacted and set in stone that voting is a right consistently. It has to come in front of the Congress or the Senate every so often. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of that. I'm just telling you from what I've observed and what I read, we got to keep going back and asking for the right to vote. We have to keep going back and putting things in place because they're trying to minimize the impact of your vote. Why is that? The Electoral College says that the president has to have 270, I think it is. I can't remember off the top of my head, 270 electoral votes to be put into office. That ain't changed. But in order for the electoral votes to count, you got to have people to vote. And if they're trying to minimize or take away your right to vote, what are they doing? Trent Branch, absolutely right. Right in your face. It's obvious. Some of them are your neighbors. Let's just be real. Some of them are your neighbors. I'm just saying. Some of them are your neighbors. Some of them are your co-workers. Some of them serving you food when you go to the drive-thru. Restaurants. Stay ready so we ain't got to get ready. Stay ready so we don't have to get ready. This week, transitioning. Because I could go into that for the whole show, but we're not going to go there. Pay attention. Please, start paying attention. I don't care where you see it. I don't know. Read it, whatever. Pay attention. The writing's on the wall. This week, there's a judge. Judicial Judge nominee Andre Mathis. Andre Mathis was elected by President Joe Biden. He's a judicial nominee for a seat in the 6th U.S. Court of Appeals, which includes Tennessee. And this week, while they were, they had him up there at a hearing, Senator Marsha Blackburn cited some issues with her as far as she's concerned about failures for him, Mr. Mathis, Judge Mathis, to be, for not paying some traffic tickets. Yeah, Trent, let's go here. So Marsha Blackburn drew sharp criticism, is what the article says, after saying that the judicial nominee Andre Mathis has a rap sheet with a laundry list of citations during the Wednesday hearing. Now, person of color. I was going to get that, bro. I was going to get that. Thank you for the preface, though. Thank you for prefacing that, man. Let's get James Battle. The veterans that were involved should lose all benefits. Yes, they should lose all benefits. And let me hold off on Judge Andre Mathis for a minute. I agree with you 100%, Mr. Battle. And here's the other part that I think they need to look at. Why is retired General Michael Flynn still authorized and still receiving government pension, military pension, for what he's done. See, we'll get the low-hanging fruit, but we're not getting the ones up top. Why is General Mike Flynn still receiving anything? Because people forget. He had to retire because he was going against President Obama at the time, so they forced him to retire. He was over top of DISA. DISA, this is the intelligence agency, the large intelligence agency on Bolin Air Force Base in D.C. He was over top of that whole organization. DIA is what they call it, Defense Intelligence Agency. He was over all that. But he's still receiving. Now, then after he retired, he went against this, he went against that. He went to Russia, had dinner with Putin, and all kinds of other stuff he's involved in. He's still getting a pension. Why? Because I say it like this, and I appreciate James Battle bringing this up, but any person who calls themselves a veteran because they served this country, who chooses to outright be a part of an insurrection, be a part of an overthrow of the government, and so on and so forth, should lose all and any veteran benefits that they're authorized because of the act of trying to overthrow a government that you swore to uphold and defend under this Constitution of the United States. Now, why it's not happening, I don't know. But it's something that needs to be looked at. Because you got people that end up getting discharged, smoking a little weed back in the day, DUI, that kind of stuff, who get a dishonorable discharge or less than honorable discharge. And they go back and they have to fight to get it overturned to just a general discharge or administrative discharge so they can receive benefits through the VA and all that type stuff. But these people who are doing this insurrection and General Flynn and everything, they're free to walk, still getting checks and so forth. But I digress. Let's get back to this rap sheet story. So Senator Blackburn from Tennessee cited issues stemming from failures to appear in court following a series of traffic citations, all from a decade or more ago. Andre Mathis, who's the judge, said he either resolved or did not recall the incidents in question, which ranged from 2008 to 2011. Mathis is one of President Joe Biden's nominees up for a seat in the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which includes Tennessee. If confirmed, he would become the first Black man and the second Black person to sit on the 6th Circuit from Tennessee, according to the White House news release announcing Mathis's nomination in November. Mathis is a partner at Memphis law firm Butler Snow. He is known for his pro bono work with the Tennessee Innocence Project and for representing indigent criminal defendants. Now, I watched a little bit of this, his response. This brother was brought to tears about this. Not because of the fact of what he didn't do or that he may have forgot to pay a ticket or anything like that, but he was in near tears because he felt that he dishonored his family by not taking care of what he was supposed to take care of at the time. Now, mind you, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt with these tickets because what she tried to do was she tried to say that he felt he was above the law. That's why he never paid the tickets. That's why he never took care of them. That's why he just blew them off because he feels he's above the law. And her comment was, if he feels he's above the law with this, what other things is he gonna feel like he's above the law when it comes to being a judge? This was her argument. Now, we all have gotten speeding tickets one time. One of the speeding tickets was 5 miles an hour, going 5 miles an hour over speed limit. Now, nobody truly gets tickets that are 5 miles and over, depending on the police officer who's yours. It says Mathis expressed regret for his actions and said he felt he embarrassed his family during the hearing. His wife, 2 children, and father were present during the hearing. While I deserve this, they don't. I can assure the committee that I'm a law-abiding citizen. I've never been arrested. I've never been charged with a crime. Mathis said in the hearing that he didn't remember the first ticket or license suspension in 2008 and said he would not have driven if his license was suspended. He also addressed a later ticket he simply forgot about and later resolved. Mind you, he forgot, he resolved. Mathis said his license was suspended in 2011 over a ticket he put in his glove compartment, which we all do, and forgot to pay. He said that likely led to his failure to appear in the court. and that as soon as he found out about his license suspension, he quickly rectified the situation. Now, I want y'all to think back when the former president was in office and all these judges that he was putting in place during his tenure, not only at the Supreme Court, but in all these judicial courtrooms around the land that were open positions, that they were just sending them through to get in these positions. But you had this young brother, I'm just going to call him a young brother, who's trying to do the right thing in his life. Now, you can't tell me that Joe Biden's going to put somebody up to be a judge for a judicial court that isn't deserving. I just don't believe that. But for Senator Marsha Blackburn to bring up the fact that he had 3 tickets that weren't paid from 2011 in the year of 2022, when he's coming up to be on a judicial court, just lets you know that she doesn't feel that he should be on that court because he has a criminal background, because the way she addressed what his tickets were was not individual tickets or that he had tickets here, he had tickets there. She identified them as a rap sheet, a rap sheet. Like he's had a criminal past all through his life, like they did with George Floyd, like they did with Trayvon Martin, like they did with Ahmaud Arbery, like they did with everybody that has lost their lives to the police. They've always brought up the fact that this is their rap sheet. This is why they deserve to die. They didn't say it that way, but that's what they meant. But in this case, she throws it out there as a rap sheet to go against the fact that he's going to be a judge eventually. These are those dog whistles, as they say, of racism. And it's not a dog whistle, it's outright. Because this woman, Senator Blackburn, was a strong supporter of Brett Kavanaugh, who was accused of rape when he was in school. Y'all remember that, when all that case went on about him going to the Supreme Court to be a judge on the Supreme Court. And he was accused of rape when he was in high school, when they were drinking beer and all this stuff, and they blew it off. And he got up there, cried in front of the camera and everything. You did what you did, no matter what the tears are. And he never fessed up to it. This man, Andre Mathis, fessed up to the fact that he just forgot about the traffic ticket. So you're going to tell me that a man gets a traffic ticket, three tickets in a lifetime, that the only ones you want to identify because he didn't pay him, or if you got to pay him and everything, should keep him off of the stand? But then you got other people sworn in as senators and congressmen and local legislatures that have done much worse than just speeding tickets. Pay attention to your local levels. Pay attention to the people you're putting in place. Russell Jenkins, good morning, bro. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the support. Trim Branch, painting the picture of trying to control the narrative. That's it. That's it. Thank you, James Battle. She had legal issues of her own. Let's get to that. So there was a story also that she used her influence, or who she is, to get out of a ticket herself. Supposedly she was in a car trying to get to the airport. The driver was speeding, pulled her over. She got out, flashed her badge at the Capitol Police officer, jumped back in the car, told the driver to keep going. No accountability. But we only hear about these things when they're doing something wrong to somebody else. We don't hear about the wrong they do on a daily basis. But we continue to put these and recycle these same people into office over and over and over again. She wasn't even driving the car, but reason she jumped out and flashed her badge about her being a senator or whatever was because she didn't want to miss her flight. Because that driver of that vehicle that was taking her was speeding. The Capitol Police officer stopped her, and she didn't want to be late for her flight. So she flashed her badge, jumped back in the car, pulled off. Now, there was some words exchanged. I don't know exactly what they were, but there was some words exchanged. She pulled off. No harm, no foul, as far as what they felt. But now you're going to talk about a person who sat there, got cited by the police, forgot to pay the ticket. And that's an issue. John Chaney, he does have the complexion for the protection. There it is. Trim Brands, yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. So we're up in arms. Well, they're up in arms about a person that's coming to be a judge. Because I understand as a judge, you're questioning moral values, integrity, and all that. The things we normally talk about that we're raised on, our values, our morals, our principles. As a judge, you need that. And you want to make sure that you're putting somebody in there that holds that to the 10th, to the strength of what it is. But let me give you a story about some of these judges out here, because we've heard the stories about these judges out here that have the complexion for the protection, that don't hold people accountable that look like them because they think they're good citizens and they'll be better off, and the jail is not for them and all this kind of stuff. But they throw the book at the one that doesn't have the complexion for the protection to give them 40 years behind jail because of a misdemeanor. A Kentucky judge took the unusual step of sentencing a man convicted of sexually assaulting an inmate to reenlist in the armed forces or go to jail. A Kentucky judge took the unusual step, now they say an unusual step, of sentencing a man convicted of sexually assaulting an inmate to reenlist in the armed forces or go to jail. Where they do that at? First of all, well, let's just go here. 28-year-old Brandon Scott Price, an Army veteran and former prison guard, is attempting to rejoin one of the armed forces. Last week, Price was given the sentence in Kentucky County Court and offered a choice: either re-enlist or go to jail for 12 months. 12 months. 12 months. 1 year. He's going to jail for 1 year for sexually assaulting an inmate. He was a prison guard. The only sentence they were going to give him was 1 year in jail or join the military. These are the options that they gave him. When do you give somebody options who's raped someone, sexually assaulted someone? These are the times we're in. These are the judges we have sitting on benches around here in this United States of America. But we're trying to chastise the judges who are on the up and up and upcoming that look a certain way, who had a speeding ticket that he forgot to pay. But this judge, he gonna give a man a benefit of the doubt and give him 1 year in jail or go to the military? And we're okay with this? The judge told him, if you don't enroll in 30 days, you can report to the Franklin County Regional Jail. You are under the gun, young man. You got to do it. You're getting a huge break. I ain't got to tell you what it looked like, though. I ain't got to tell you. Which branch of our armed forces will accept him? That's the key. Now, let me give you the backstory, and then I'm going to talk about that, which branch of the military will accept him. In 2019, a woman incarcerated at Franklin County Regional Jail accused Price of sexually assaulting her during a medical emergency. The wrongdoing allegedly began on the way to the hospital. Price broke prison rules when he transported the woman alone for treatment, according to officials. From there, Price made sexually charged comments before assaulting the shackled inmate inside a van on the side of the road and propositioning her for other sex acts, insinuating he could help her get early release from prison. Following reports of the assault, Price told officials he made a stupid mistake and let a female inmate touch me inappropriately before he was arrested after an investigation by prison authorities. He was later charged with a felony count of third-degree sodomy before pleading down to a charge of second-degree assault. Pleading down. He was able to plead down for everything he did to this young lady. No matter what she did as far as being what she was in there for, she didn't deserve this. But he was able to plead down to a charge of second-degree assault. Despite the judge's request, it's unclear if Price will actually be able to reenlist. Here we go, Trent. The Army, for instance, bars recruits who are seeking to join as a condition of criminal sentence. However, some recruits with criminal pasts are allowed to obtain waivers and join up anyway. The practice was widespread in the years after 9/11. It's not uncommon for judges to put unique conditions like this based on the defendant that is in front of them and create conditions that will best serve them to stay on the straight and narrow. I'm going to ask this question, and maybe it's just me, because I thought about this when I was reading this. This person, Price, took advantage of a shackled prisoner, inmate, at a prison. because he felt he had the authority to. He was in a position to. But this judge feels that he can be able to go back into the military and won't do the same thing. The military already has a problem with people sexually molesting, harassing, assaulting other military members because of position and everything else. So why would this judge take the onus off him of sentencing this young man or this pervert or this criminal or this rapist to serve time in jail, but he chooses to send them back into a military and let them handle it? Where they do that at? Why is this judge able to do that? So now it's not the court system's problem, it's the military's problem. He's not going to change his behavior just because you send him in the military and because he was in the military before. There's no saying if he did it before. But you're going to put him in the military rather than sending him to jail? Send him to jail. Send him to jail. Let somebody in jail take care of him like he took care of that inmate. Now, I say that facetiously. I don't wish nobody to be raped, sexually assaulted, sexually abused, anything like that. But at the end of the day, what are we doing? What are we doing giving this man an option? First of all, you let him plead down from what the case was all about. And then you're telling him, you can either serve a year in jail or you can go back to the military. You got 30 days to make a decision. What? No, he will not change his behavior. He needs to accept his punishment. He needs his punishment, and he needs to be rehabilitated. And I'll continue to say that about the judicial system, about the prison system, prison reform. You can't just send people to prison and not rehabilitate them. You can't. You get somebody that does 20 years and then they get out, they're going to do the same thing they did 20 years before they went in. Russell Jenkins, why is that judge able to stay on the bench? They should review all his cases. They won't. They won't. But a person is going to be trying to be a judge, they'll hold him accountable for 3 speeding tickets that he forgot to pay, that he admitted that he forgot to pay. John Chaney, an option you or I wouldn't have been provided. No, never would have been provided. No how, no way. Yes, rehabilitation is the key. Yeah, and Trent, that's something that we don't talk about enough. Prison, jail, correction facilities, whatever you want to call it. Normally when you do something, they want to rehabilitate your action of what you did. We don't do that anymore. You can't go to school when you're in jail or prison. You can't pick up a trade while you're in there. All they want you to do is be there. Slave labor. Servitude. If you work in a laundry room, you get so many pennies a day and all that kind of stuff. I don't know all the ins and outs. This is what I've read. This is what I've heard over time. But we don't rehabilitate people anymore. We talk about the stigma about mental illnesses and things like that, but you got people that are going to jail that have mental illness that nobody's touching on. Nobody. How can you rehabilitate a rapist? Well, some will, some won't. Some can be, some can't. But the biggest problem is we don't try. We don't give people the benefit of the doubt that they may have done something one time on an act. I mean, come on, we've all done something one time and realized I shouldn't have done that. But when you talk about a rapist, there's something there. There's something driving that. But until we dig into it, you'll never know why the person did it. That's why I say to rehabilitate. Now, everybody's not rehabilitative. Let's just be honest. Everybody is not rehabilitative. But we should have the pieces in place to try to really rehabilitate these actions of what people do, not just throw them away. So there was a 74-year-old woman exonerated yesterday. 74 years old. She served 27 years in prison for a murder she didn't commit. Her and her boyfriend, Joyce Watkins and Charlie Dunn. I don't have to tell you what they look like. I don't have to tell you what they look like. 27 years. And they went to jail because they said they were guilty of murdering her 4-year-old great niece back in 1987. The young niece suffered from severe vaginal injury and head trauma. She was only with these two for a total of 9 hours before they had to, before they had to take her to the hospital and everything, because these were injuries that she sustained before they picked her up from her other aunt. So all these things happened, but they went to jail, wrongly accused, for 27 years, and they just been exonerated as of this week. Now, she was released from prison in 2015. He was due to be released from prison in 2015, but he died. So this man died not knowing that his sentence had been overturned. 27 years for something he did not do. We hear this over and over and over and over again. Something he did not do. Why? But then we get this guy get the benefit of the doubt. Military or 1 year in jail. These people served 27 years for something they didn't do. They know he did what he did. But these are the things going on. Now I'm going to do a rant real quick before we get into this mind, body, and soul. The NFL. There are 32 teams in the NFL, and currently there is only one Black African-American head coach, Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a few, but they've been fired over the last couple of days and so on. They call it Black Monday after the season ends, before the playoff starts, where they start firing coaches. But right now, there is one Black coach in the NFL. They got the Rooney Rule, where they got to interview a certain amount of Black coaches or Black prospects to be coaches and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not a real football person. I watch it every once in a while, whatever. But there's no Black owners in the NFL either. One minority owner owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, owns the Black News Network or something. But I'm going to ask this question. It's rhetorical, but people can chime in again. But I'm trying to figure out where these changes that y'all told me Jay-Z was going to make within the NFL once he became the person who's going to do the entertainment. Because understand something, and I said this before and I'll say it again. We can entertain, but we can't be in charge. We can entertain, but we can't be in charge. But where are all you Jay-Z supporters at now that we ain't got but one Black head coach in the NFL? They fired 2 of them this week. One of them shouldn't have been fired, but that's the owner's choice. 32 teams, one Black NFL coach. With all the players that play in the NFL of color, one coach. And if you notice when y'all watch these games, stenciled in the end zone, end racism. Also stenciled in the end zone, it takes all of us. These were initiatives, after the Colin Kaepernick situation, where we still haven't come to a conclusion about what that was all about as far as how they responded to it. Nobody speaks on it. Colin Kaepernick is an afterthought at this point. But what Colin Kaepernick was taking a knee for is the same reason why there's only one Black head coach in the NFL. But y'all still support it. Y'all do what y'all do. Continue. Now, mind, y'all went to a game this year just because I wanted the experience of the new stadium here in Las Vegas. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being hypocritical. Yeah, I went to a game. Woo. I don't follow a team. I don't have a team. I don't get into it like that because I see all the inconsistencies with what goes on. I went for the experience. I'm done with it. Once a year, maybe, give or take. But these are the things that we tend to not concentrate on and just blow off like, another day, that's just what they do and all this kind of stuff. See, we get up in arms about certain things, but we tend to just blow off other things. It's right in your face. It's right in your face. They got social justice messages on the helmets and everything and all this kind of stuff. And, as I said, y'all said Jay-Z was going to change things when he gets in there and he was going to do this. He's in charge of entertainment. Y'all can dance and sing and everything, but do not get involved in what we're doing as owners because it's not your place. I don't care what you do at the halftime show. You can have Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre and everybody when they do their Super Bowl in LA, but you will not tell these owners what to do. Stay in your lane. You are entertainment and entertainment only. Stay there. Where them changes that y'all was talking about? Where they at? Because you can't chastise Colin Kaepernick for what he was taking a knee about, and then in the same breath be okay with there only being one black head coach in the NFL. You can't. But it's wild card weekend. A lot of y'all be plastered to the TV watching these players play and everything like that. And I understand it's entertainment. But sometimes you got to look at the big picture on why we're not moving forward. Why we're not able to move forward in the things that we want to complain about, or we want to bring justice to, or we want to bring light to, is because while we're speaking loudly, we looking out the corner of our eye, be like, I can't stand what they're doing in the NFL. Was that a touchdown? You see where I'm going, right? Did he make that catch? All these things are why we're not moving forward. But we're guilty of it because we still give them the support. We still do the things we do. We don't bring up these things when they need to be brought up. Just saying. Jay-Z clown. John Chaney, right? NFL gonna get paid no matter what. But does it have to be your dollars? Does it have to be your dollars? Now, people will say, well, those players are getting millions of dollars. Yeah, they're getting millions of dollars. But a torn ACL, broken ankle, anything that may happen to them that minimizes what they were able to do before the injury, that career will be very short-lived. We lose focus of that because as long as he can run down that field and jump up in the air over top of the defensive backs and grab that touchdown and get in the end zone and shake his booty a little bit or celebrate and everything, no harm, no foul. But when you look down at that sideline, all the players, all the position coaches, a couple coordinators, defensive and offensive here, but only one head coach. It looks like you and me. Is there a problem? I'll let you decide. Don't say we. I'm not a huge supporter anymore. I watch periodically, soon to be never. I'm back. My bad, dog. Well, let me just say this. When I throw these things out there, process what you need to. Whatever don't pertain to you, throw it out. Just throw it out. Just throw it out. Just throw it out. Just throw it out. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Next man up. That's it. Next man up. Somebody is always waiting to take your position. Someone's always waiting to take your position. Next man up. I don't know, y'all. That's where we're at. Let's go and get into this. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. This year, 2022, know your worth. That's what we're all about this year. 2022 is know your worth. Yo, Harwell, good morning. Good morning. Happy New Year. Long time no here. Happy New Year. Good morning. Good morning. Know your worth in 2022. That's what the basis is. That's what it's all about. We're still taking it one day at a time as well. 1440. Remember that. 1440. Not 24 hours in the day. You got 1,440 minutes. That's the concentration this year. Mind, body, and soul today is this quote from, where'd it go? Jim Stengel. And the quote says this: if you want to understand how a lion hunts, don't go to the zoo, go to the jungle. If you want to understand how a lion hunts, don't go to the zoo, go to the jungle. I picked this one up, the mind, body, and soul today, because we got to pay attention. We have to dig in our heels to find out what's going on around us. You know, we talk about politics. We talk about what's going on, you know, in just like the NFL I just talked about, in politics, the racism in the court systems and all this kind of stuff. And John Chaney mentioned it earlier that we got to get more involved in some things. When you want to understand, and it's so eloquent when I seen this, when you want to understand how a lion hunts, you don't go to the zoo. Because a lion doesn't hunt in a zoo. A lion is provided food. In the jungle, the lion has to track his food. So you have to go to the environment that they're in. That goes along with life. That goes along with anything. You have to be in the environment to understand what is going on in that environment. You cannot talk about, per se, the hood if you've never been to the hood. You can't talk about the suburbs if you've never been to the suburbs. You can't go into a board meeting and talk about a subject that you've never been a part of. You have to be in those environments. We have to get ourselves at the table. See, this is where we got to be better at what we do, all of us. And it doesn't have to be you. If there's somebody you know that's pushing to be in a political position, pushing to be a lawyer, pushing to be a judge, support them, back them. Stop trying to down talk them about what they're trying to do and encourage them to do what they're going to do. See, we as a people and as a United States citizens, as human beings, sometimes we get so caught up in what someone else is trying to do that we want to down talk them because we're not doing it. We have to be cognizant that whatever's going on around us, when we talk about the insurrection, when we talk about these senators, these congressmen, and all these people that are making these laws about what's going to happen with this and what's going to have these investigations and all this stuff. And you know, as John Chaney said, complexion for the protection and all these things that we see and we talk about. We can't just sit back and watch from afar rather than getting into the environment of where these things are happening. When you see people that are running for office that have the intent and the integrity to do what they got to do, sit down and talk to them. Sit down and talk to them. Get the information you need. Learn to understand that we got to be involved. We got to be in the grassroots movement. That's why they call it that, the grassroots movement. We got to be at the basis of what's going on to understand so we know the decisions that we need to make. We can't continue to sit on the sidelines and talk about what we should be doing rather than putting it in motion to do it. We got to get involved, people. We got to get involved. And as I always say, don't get me wrong, I got to get more involved in what I am as well. I can't just come on here and do it. I got to be about it as well. 2022 is knowing your worth. And in order to be able to truly know your worth, you got to be able to get involved in what's going on around you. Because we all can make an impact or make some kind of positional move that's going to change the narrative of what it is to what it should be. If you want to understand how a lion hunts, don't go to the don't go to the zoo. Go to the jungle. If you want to understand how politics work, if you want to understand how the judicial system works, don't just sit back and watch Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC. First, you need to read. Then you need to go and sit in on a couple of these court. You can go and be a member in a court and watch what goes on in these court proceedings. You can be a member and go. You don't have to be a member, and you can go to some of these political, votes that they go, these open, these what do they call them? Open forums at the congressional levels that you're in your local state elections and things that go on when they have the town halls and things. You can be involved, but you can't be involved if you're from the outside looking in. You gotta get in. You gotta get in. Can't understand how a lion hunts going to the zoo. You got to go to the jungle. I'm going to a safari in South Africa. That's on my list of things to do. I want to see how they really do it. Not on TV, on National Geographic or nothing there. I want to see it up close and personal. And being that I want to do that, I need to get more involved in the political processes and how these juries are selected and so on and so forth. We all got to get involved. Let's make it happen. This is year 2022. We all got to know our worth. Let's keep pushing. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. It's a good show. As time goes, we sit back, we see these things going on around us. And I know we can't speak about everything that goes on about us and think that it's going to make an impact. But as a group, we can make change happen. We can impose our will on the things that we know that need to change, how they need to change, and who needs to make the change. But until we come together and get on the same accord, we're still going to be doing the same thing. We're still going to be going back and forth. You know, as I mentioned about the NFL and football and everything, I understand. People like their sports, people like their certain teams and everything, but just because you support a certain team, don't lose focus of the things going on behind the scenes. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Anybody who's an NFL fan, anybody who speaks out and says, you know, I'm an ally to the movement, I support Black Lives Matter, so on and so forth. If you can sit and watch the NFL and not be upset, pissed off, curious on why the NFL only has one current Black head coach, you need to reevaluate. You need to reevaluate. And everything is not about affirmative action. It's about being qualified for the position, because we've seen too many people get these positions who are underqualified. And then that brother that's qualified and overqualified gets overlooked. I can't make you a head coach, but I can make you a coordinator. I can't make you a head coach, but I can make you a player personnel. These are the things that we got to think. We went through the same thing with the quarterbacks. Now we're dealing with the same thing with the head coaches. It's got to be a shift. It's got to be a shift. Got to be a shift. I appreciate everybody tuning in. As I say, you know, we got things to do, and I'm going to continue to give you the information that you need for us to start doing these things. We got to make some changes. And it's going to be some things that we're going to talk about that some people ain't going to like. It's going to be some things we're going to talk about that some people are going to be up in arms about, and some people are going to say, why'd you say that? And at this point, we got to keep doing what we're doing. Progress is about moving forward, not standing still. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday is on Monday. I seen where the King family, just bring this up, heard that the King family is saying that we shouldn't even celebrate it this year unless and until these senators and Senate members and Congress members decide that they're going to pass the Voting Rights Act, because that's what he was all about. See, that tells you something right there. When a family who has someone who is world renowned and celebrated for his birthday because of what he stood for, and they're saying don't celebrate it because they need to pass this, that means it's serious business. That means it's serious business, and we got to stop taking it like for granted that it's just a day off. It's a day of action. It's a day of movement. It's a day of work. Let's get better at this. Love yourself. Love one another. Keep your head up. And most definitely, keep your faith in God. I'm your boy, R.W. Coolin. I appreciate y'all tuning in, and I'll see y'all again next week. Holla at me. Peace.